Hi and welcome to Debt Tale. This is Rebecca Bautista and we'll be covering zero-based budgeting. So let's get started. So if you ever heard someone talk about giving every dollar a job, then they're talking about a zero-based budget, which in essence just means that your expenses equal your income. So if your expenses equal your income, then what's left over is zero. And then you're like, why would I want everything to equal zero? Well, it's just a concept. In this type of budgeting method, your savings, investing, your goals, all of that are still considered expenses. So everything is tackled as an expense, and you're trying to make sure that none of your dollars go unallocated. Just note that this doesn't mean you're actually spending all of your dollars. Again, your savings, your investing is still considered part of your expenses, but it's just an idea to do your math at the end of the month to make sure that it equals out. So your expenses in this case is anything where you spend or send your money to. Again, spend being things that you're buying, and sending to would be moving things to savings, retirement, etc. Now, this type of budgeting really requires you to really track your money, because your money will be going in all these different pockets. Not only that, in order to ensure that at the end of the month you are spending all the money in the right categories, then you have to track all of those categories to make sure that the money is going where you allocated it to. If you have a set income, generally this is easier to do, because if you have fluctuations with variable pay, let's say you're 1099, you are depending on commissions or on bonuses, then it's a little bit harder to track, but still doable. Either way, as always, I highly recommend having a buffer to prevent overdraft fees, to have an emergency fund just in case you run short for any reason or a emergency pops up, like a car breaking down. Things happen, and so you want to make sure that you have money set aside to cover those things, to not completely derail your budget. So for this type of budgeting to work, you have to really nail down your categories, and there's two ways to go about this. The first way is to be very specific and have a bunch of categories, or you have some more general, bigger categories that encompasses a bunch of things within it. In that sense, the more categories you have, the more tracking you will have to do. That's something to keep in consideration. Some people really like to know where they're spending their money, and other people just want to have a general rough idea. It's dependent on how you are and what type of information you want. If you want to understand your spending trends by specific stores or by specific seasons, then you would want to go really, really specific. But if you just want to know if you're eating out versus buying groceries, then you can just have a food budget and a takeout budget instead. Just note that this type of budget is considered a little bit more intensive than others, because you are tracking your money on a constant basis. You could be doing this manually with pen and paper, or you could be doing this digitally. There are apps now for this. Aside from apps, you can just make an Excel spreadsheet, or you could just make a Google Sheet. Just go in and type your spending as you spend to keep a running tab. So some of the app options are EveryDollar, Mint, Good Budget. You could also do You Need a Budget. Some of these apps offer a higher paid plan where it syncs to your banking account and automatically gets your spending profile. However, they can be glitchy at times. Just keep in mind, and you have to be comfortable with giving the app access to receiving those type of statements from your bank. Also, these apps tend to have an auto categorization, which can be helpful, but sometimes you still have to go in and manually change things. For example, in my case at Walmart, we both do our grocery shopping there, but we also pick up our medicine there. And so in my case, I have to make sure that I categorize what was a medical expense and what was a food purchase. Also, there is an option with Google Sheets as well as Excel using this app, or it's not an app, but like a website called Tiller, and that also helps create like an automatic way of doing it for you. It is a paid service, and it's something that you could consider. Now, there's also fintech banks like Cube Money, which allows digital enveloping, and that is a potential option for people who want to swipe and pick categories as they swipe. There are people who are gung-ho and jump straight into digital. In general, most people start this manually and then move on to a digital option. It is really about preference. I think it is important to start it manually, personally, because it allows you to really get a hone in on what you've been doing behaviorally in terms of your spending, to kind of see, and I would say get to know your numbers and come to terms with, hey, I've been spending and this is where I've been spending. I think it's easier to do it on paper first and then move to a digital app. Also, the learning curve can be kind of a downside. This budget also isn't a type that is a set to forget. You are going to be tweaking it. I also highly recommend that you do sinking funds in order to account for those subscriptions that are maybe semi-annually or annually, so you don't get surprised by all of a sudden a big chunk of money getting pulled out and derailing your budget. Not only that, you want to consider it for holidays where you would be spending money like Christmas or Thanksgiving if you're the one that does the food for everybody, and also birthdays. Just know also that with this type of budgeting, because you will be doing it so frequently, you will be in constant contact with your numbers, and in doing so, you'll probably be tweaking it and fixing it from the get-go. Well, I hope you found this really quick general overview of what a zero-based budget is helpful. If you need more details or you have any further questions, please leave a comment below and I'll be happy to address them. I would really appreciate a like on this video because it helps the YouTube algorithm. I'm sure you've heard that in countless videos. It just helps YouTube go, hey, people are interested in this topic. Let me go show it to other people who might be interested in this topic. And personal finance is something that affects every person. All right, so in our next video, we're going to be talking about envelope stuffing or cash stuffing or envelope budgeting. There's so many different names for it, and it is a method that you might want to consider. So until the next video, bye.